and welcome to the Magical Travel Adventure Podcast. I am Lauren, your host. And as you can see, if you're just listening, you can't see, but we have started to put the podcast up on the YouTube channel. I've gotten a lot of requests if I can put it up on the YouTube channel. So I decided, hey, let's put the podcast also up on the YouTube channel. So typically it will just be a video of me. I might insert some pictures here and there sometimes I won't. Kind of depends on timing and what I have going on, but I'll definitely try and insert some pictures here and there when I can and when time allows. So, on today's podcast, I am doing a Universal Studios trip report from my trip in February. Once or twice a year, I will go to Disney and Universal just myself to see and gather information so I can better help clients when they come to Universal or Disney. So today, or I should say, today's podcast is all about that trip report to Universal. I typically try and do both Universal and Disney with my family at least once a year, and then do these trips on my own. It's just a little easier because I have a small child. There's some information that's just easier for me to gather without my child that will better help you when you plan your trip. So I did go in February, and I'm going to do these in two separate podcasts, but I did Universal in one day and I did Disney in 2 other days. So on my arrival day, I took a super early flight. I live in Connecticut, so I took a super early flight out in Connecticut, and I often do that. It's so I can have like a full day um, that I get to use instead of like flying in at night and just staying the night and paying for that night. I'd rather have the whole day. So I often use it for a Universal day or a Disney Springs day when I fly down. So this time I did a Universal day. And I am a Universal Studios annual pass holder. I think that that is a great deal. You get a lot of great options when you're a Universal Studios pass holder and discounts. So I really like it. It's very easy to use. One of the things I really like about Universal, and I don't always like to compare Universal and Disney, but it's very common because I do the both as a travel agent. But I really enjoy the ease of Universal. You can just show up and have your day, and that's it. There really isn't too much planning that needs to take place. There isn't a lot of dining that needs to take place. So there you can decide if you want to do a sit down restaurant if you want. I think more near the holidays at Universal, sometimes that makes a difference if you have kids for character meals. The Grinch holidays is normally like the big thing that everyone is coming down to do. So that is when I really think about my dining a little more. But for Universal for this trip, my goal was to just eat between the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and on both sides. So, and I'll get into that a little bit. I do have my note sheet here, so I will have to reference that sometimes too, because I don't have my whole trip memorized from beginning to end. But when I arrived in Florida this time in February, I decided I wanted to try something different. So I actually tried Turo during a rental car through Turo. And if you don't know, Turo is like a Airbnb basically for cars. So you are specifically renting a car from a person. And my person was Anna. She was amazing. She was so good to me. And Anna, if you're watching, thank you. She she was so good to me the whole time. She met me. My flight actually got in early. She met me early. And all I do is I walk out like I was getting an Uber or Lyft, or if someone was picking me up from the airport, and she met me right there. She gave me the car, she gave me the keys. We did a quick inspection and off I went. So there's a whole app, Turo, if you want to check it out. it was much cheaper for me to get a car through Turo than it was to rent a car. And one of my biggest pet peeves with rental cars is having to go and get the rental car. Even if you do stuff online ahead of time, I just find that there's a lot of hiccups. Now with Turo, it's a bunch of people, obviously, and you're renting the cars from them. So you need to decide, like, does this person have a good reputation? Things like that, because each person is going to be a different experience for you. Like going forward, I would just contact Anna to see if her car is available, or at least one of her cars are available to use her in the future because it was so easy. I mean, I think I landed at 10 a.m. and I was in the car at 10:10 a.m. driving away to get to Universal. So it was a very quick experience and it was just me. So I could easily get through the airport and I know the airport. So it's very simple for me to do all those things. So it was wonderful. Highly recommend Turo if you're going to rent a car. It's a great option. So then I drove to Universal. It was like 20 minutes away. So I drove to Universal. I got there. I get free parking with the Universal annual pass that I have. So I just show them my pass and my ID. I will say at Universal that you do have to show your ID sometimes if you have a annual pass, or for different things you might have to show your ID. So that is something just to remember and think about when you're going to Universal. So I parked, and of course, because I got there later in the day, I was in the furthest away parking garage, but I was really close to the escalators. So in the morning when I first got there, and I just been sitting, almost for 4 hours from flying and then driving, I'm all amped up, ready to go. So the walk doesn't seem as bad. At the end of the day, it seemed much harder, but how it works at Universal is whether you're parking or if let's say you're coming in on a bus from one of the hotels, if you're coming in on the boats at one of the premier hotels, it's a little different. But if you're coming in on a bus, or if you're driving, or if you're taking an Uber or Lyft to Universal, you're all coming to this one central location where security is. And it's a circle. It's not like a circle, it actually is a circle. And you put your stuff through security, and then you get into City Walk, which is shops, restaurants, an entertainment area. There's a mini golf place. So there's a bunch of things that you can do. It's not equal to Disney Springs, but it is a similar situation. It is still a walk from security all the way to getting to City Walk. It does take, I would say, 5 minutes. They do have moving walkways to kind of help you. And then once you get into City Walk, it's pretty much a 5-minute walk to both Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios. If you're coming in on one of the boats from the premier hotels, then you're getting dropped off right in the middle of City Walk. So you're much closer typically to Universal Studios. And it's just a little further walk to Islands of Adventure, but you're definitely closer to getting into the parks if you're coming in on boats from those premier hotels. And I say this because for a lot of people, it's a mile walk from, if you took an Uber or Lyft, or if you drove, it's a mile walk from your car or getting dropped off all the way to get to into a theme park. So it is a lot of walking at the very beginning and of course at the very end. So you want to think about that at the beginning and the end of the day, what's going to be the easiest for you, and that you're going to need to have that extra oomph at the end of the day to get you all the way back to your car or Uber, Lyft, or to the buses or to the boat transportation. So on my trip, I was going to try and play mini golf, but I didn't have enough time because there were a bunch of things that I wanted to do. And I had purchased Express Pass, which is front of the line access for most of the rides between Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. I did not I purchased the one that you can do each ride one time. If you stay at one of the premier hotels, you can get the access that you can get in the express lane as many times as you want for whatever rides you want, how many times you want to do it per day. You can also purchase it. I only just wanted to try each ride once. It was just me. And I was just trying to see if I thought it was worth it for Express Pass. Now, I'm saying that I bought it for myself. It was $90 for the day for myself. And there were a bunch of things that I was trying to accomplish when I was in Universal, not necessarily how an everyday person would try to go to Universal Studios, but I was trying to test some plans and try and see some different things to best help people in planning their trips. So I did check out before I went into the parks. I did go over to the Hard Rock Hotel because it is currently under construction. And I wanted to see how, I don't want to say loud, but I don't know another word to say, but how disruptive the construction was. And it was loud. It was really loud. Like you could hear it. If you don't know, there's like walkways when you're going from the hotels to Universal and vice versa. And they're normally very serene. It's very quiet. They're built up very nicely. The grounds are kept very well along those walkways. And like at the start of my walk, I was like, oh my gosh, what is that noise? And it was, 10:45 in the morning at that point, and it was so loud. They're putting on a new roof at Hard Rock, and I will say different parts of the hotel are actually like closed to guests, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it was pretty loud the whole time. If you are planning on napping at all, this is not the hotel for you right now because it's loud. It's a really great hotel when it's not under construction and they're not putting on a new roof, but it was very loud the whole time. I don't know how else to say it. It was loud. And I even walked over to Portofino Bay, which is the next hotel over, to see if you could hear the construction over there, and you could not. So you could not hear any of the construction from the Hard Rock over there. And when I was there at the Hard Rock, I actually stopped and asked them because there were all these people outside working. And they definitely said that this was the loudest day of all of the work. But I don't know how anyone could stay there because it was so loud. I can't imagine being even around in that building because you're talking about a huge hotel, then they have to replace the whole roof. So just be careful if that is someplace that you are staying in 2022, especially the first half of 2022. I did end up taking the boat back to Universal Studios from Portofino Bay. It's very simple, very easy, very consistent. The boat transportation and the bus transportation, I have always found at Universal to be very consistent, very easy. I don't think I've ever waited more than 5 minutes for any transportation. Maybe I've waited like 7 minutes, but I've always gotten on the transportation, and that has always been simple for me. So I've really enjoyed that. I really like taking the boat. They don't like check to see if you're staying at that resort. If you show up there and you get on the boat, you get on the boat. You go through security before you get on the boat, and that's it. I had the like best driver on the boat ride from Portofino, and Portofino is my favorite premier hotel. It's quiet, it's serene, there's a spa, there's great restaurants there. And if you don't know, at all of the Universal hotels, there is a ticket center in each hotel. So you can get your tickets all set up. You could buy tickets there. If you have questions about your tickets, you can go to your hotel lobby and get it all set up. So I find that much different than Disney is that you can get all your needs done when you're at your hotel. And so that if you have an issue with your ticket, you can get it all settled, and then you can go to the parks and just go into the parks. So that is really nice. What I will say that is different is for Universal, you often have to like scan your ticket. I don't have mine. Oh, I do have mine. Hold on. No, I don't have it close enough for me to grab. But I have my Universal Pass. It's on a Harry Potter lanyard. I highly encourage that if you're going to Universal that you get that lanyard because it's just easier. You can put your pass in and your key card for your room both in that little pouch, and you don't have to really take them out. You could just scan them in that lanyard, and then you're all set. That helps you to get into the park. It helps if you have, it depends on how you have Express Pass linked, but you can use Express Pass. You could put your Express Pass barcode in there so they can scan that easily. However, it's easiest for you. I will say one of the issues I did have when I went is that when I had to scan in at Universal, it took forever. And I know that Disney's been having a lot of issues lately getting people to scan in on time and have ease of scan. At Universal, I've never had that problem. And I don't know if there was just like a rush of people when I started, but it took over 10 minutes for me just to get into Universal Studios, which like never happens. So that was like a quick, easy thing, but came from the boat, Portofino, got off, walked my 2 minutes over to Universal, walked into Universal, took about 10 minutes to scan in with my ticket, and then I was in. Now, I wasn't going to do too many rides on this trip. One of the reasons is that obviously I normally ride with my family, and I also normally ride with my husband. I don't have the best vision. I'm not blind or legally blind, but I'm close. And so I have to be really careful in dark spaces. And I could go and get like, disability access if I really needed it, but I try not to use it when it's just me because I don't need to really ride every ride when I'm there. So I pick the rides that I know I can do and I can navigate myself. Because if I use a flashlight, because I know people will ask, if I use a flashlight, it takes away the experience for other people. So I try, that's why I don't always use it. And so like my husband can kind of guide me if I can't see in certain locations, and that kind of helps. So I wanted to see like different areas in Universal Studios to see how crowded they were, how people were kind of navigating them. It was sort of a busier time when I went, and during that time, I would say that I had been in the summer of 2021 and I had a very mixed experience with Universal. It did not go very well in a lot of ways, and it was just understaffing, undertrained. They weren't ready for the crowds that they have, and now everyone seems to be ready for the crowds. So that seemed to be much better. There seemed to be enough staffing. There seemed to be enough people around if you had questions. There were enough people to ride there were enough people to run the rides. There were characters. What's different at Universal is characters are just kind of out and about sometimes. You might be able to walk almost up to them. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy were just kind of walking around when I was there. Beetlejuice was walking around. So it's definitely more, the characters are more free to be around in Universal. I did check out the Universal Annual Pass Lounge. It's nothing special. That's all I'm going to say. It's great if you need a quick, quiet place. I was the only person in there, and I think I was in and out in 2 minutes. I was just trying to check it out. But if I needed to, I definitely could stay there. There are no free things. Like if they're giving away free things, like sometimes they just give away different things for annual passes at Universal. So you could always pick those up. When I was there, I didn't get it because I forgot to ask, but it's not the same as in other parks. So after that, I did end up going kind of over to the Simpsons area, and I was going to ride the Simpsons ride, but I kind of chickened out at the last minute, so I didn't do it. And I just ended up walking over to the Harry Potter area. And if you don't know, there's two parts to Harry Potter. one part is in Universal Studios and the other part is in Islands of Adventure. And obviously they do that. So you have to buy a ticket to go to both parks. I would say between Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios, that side it's Diagon Alley. So you're talking more shops and you're talking more experiences. They do shows on both sides, but it's just, this is more of the, you're going into the different shops, seeing what they have. The Leaky Cauldron is there to eat, and it's just more shops. There is one ride, Escape from Gringotts, which is my favorite ride. I still think that is the best ride there. So, and obviously the Hogwarts Express that will take you to Islands of Adventure if you have a park to park ticket. So when I went into Diagon Alley, I wasn't really sure what I was going to start with. I never have a total plan. So I kind of looked around at a bunch of the shops, and then I ended up going into the Leaky Cauldron. I was hoping that they were going to have mobile order available, but they did not. So sometimes they have it available, sometimes they don't. If they don't, then you have to wait in line. I honestly did not wait that long. I think I waited in line maybe 10 minutes and then I was able to order. What is harder there is a lot of the menu is not until you get straight up to order. So it's kind of hard to see. And it's not like common food. It's not like burgers or things like that. It's very traditional foods. Like I had fish and chips when I was there, and of course, a butterbeer. So it was really, you have to know that you're going to like the food that's there. It's very specific to Harry Potter and what it would be like if you were in England to begin with. So I ordered, and then what happens is once you order, they give you a candlestick with a number on it. And then someone walks you to a table to sit. Sometimes it's long tables, community style, where you are sitting with other families at a table. I had my own table, a little like 2-person table. And so I was just by myself because it was just me. I will say I waited probably 15, 20 minutes for my food. I was fine with that, but just know that that is what's going to happen. And I was eating at like prime lunchtime. It was like probably exactly 12 o'clock when I walked in. So it was a crowded time. I ordered off the kids menu and just got the fish and chips and the butter beer because that's plenty for me. I thought the fish and chips were awesome. I loved the butter beer. I was a little nervous about what it was going to taste like. And it's sort of like a butterscotch drink. And I just got the regular butter beer. I've had the other ones before also. I love them all. I mean, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, you know, was there at midnight to get the books, saw all the movies the day that they were released. I love Harry Potter. So it's very immersive and it's very cool to see all of this come to life. And I think what I prefer to start in Universal Studios so I can start in Diagon Alley because it feels like it's the experience. Like it feels like, okay, I'm starting my school year at Hogwarts and here I go. And in the shops, I think it's so interesting because, you can buy the wands and you can take these wands and do specific spells around the area in Diagon Alley. And when we get to Hogsmeade on the other side, and, it does different things. And there were people around helping so that you could do the specific spells. There is like a map that you can buy that will help guide you also in the shops. Like you can buy robes if you want. You can buy the dress that Hermione wore at the ball. There's so many different options. There's an ice cream store, and that's amazing. There is a travel store. So I love that store. That's always very cute. It has like cute little travel items in there, and I love going to that one. And of course, you have to go to Escape from Gringotts. And I will say, I have severe motion sickness and I am fine on this ride. Maybe like one part I have to close my eyes if I have to, but I'm okay. So, with that, when you at rides, when you're at Universal, you do have to put your stuff into lockers. You can't bring like a bag on a ride or hats, even. They do encourage you to put your cell phone away, but obviously a lot of people keep it with you, but you have to have your phone away on the rides. You can't record the rides. They make sure of it. There was two people trying to record on in my car, and they actually took their phones away from them for the ride. So I've never seen that before, but that just happened in my group. I don't know if that's common. I also, the lockers are small, they're free if you use them. And how it works is you take your pass, you scan it at a certain location, and one of the lockers opens. You put your stuff in your locker, you close it. A small backpack will fit in the free ones. If you have a larger backpack, you're going to have to pay, uh, I think it was $2 when I was there for an hour. So every time you're going to go on a ride, if you bring a big bag, you're going to have to pay that $2 because you always have to put your bag in a locker for a lot of the big rides. So once you have everything in the locker, then you could go and check in. I had Express Pass, so I could check in. Now I wear a cool fanny pack when I'm traveling. So I had to keep my phone in there because my Express Pass was only on my phone. So I had to have them scan my phone. Then I could put my phone in my cute little fanny pack and then go through the ride. I'm not going to like go through the whole queue with you, but you really want to see this queue. It's really amazing. It's like breathtaking. I will say from the start of the line to get all the way to the actual ride, there it is a long queue. I would say maybe bare minimum it's 10 minutes, but probably 15 to 20 minutes for just the queue part of it. And there's different things that happen at different stages. And then you actually get into the ride vehicle and do the ride. I thought it was done wonderfully. I love this ride and I will ride it as many times as I always can. But this time I only got to ride it once and it was amazing as always. Now, when I came out, and you come out into the locker area, but there are lots of stairs. There are lots of stairs to get up to the ride and lots of stairs to get down. So something, if you struggle with stairs, you want to make sure that you have told someone so they can help you skip these stairs. I'm not talking like one flight of stairs. I'm talking like 3 or 4 flights down, maybe only 1 or 2 flights up. So you want to keep that in mind for this ride. So at the end, when you go out, you kind of come out into the lockers and you can get your stuff. What many people struggle with is figuring out how to open their lockers again. You have to kind of remember in the general area where you had your locker. And there is a number and a letter that is associated with your locker. But if you forget it, that's why it's so important. You have to scan your card. Mine is an annual pass. So I have to scan my annual pass. It'll say what locker I had and it'll open it again. So you have to be aware of where that locker is. There are people around to help you if you forget. Many people had forgotten. Many people could not figure it out. When you're done and you take everything out, you want to close the locker back up. Then, of course, you go into a shop. That's how you get out. So that's always very interesting. So after this, I decided that I was going to take the Hogwarts Express and I wanted to go over to the other side, which is Hogsmeade, which I basically say Diagon Alley is your food and drink and shopping. And then when you go over to Hogsmeade, those are your like rides. So I took the Hogwarts Express over. What was a little disappointing here is that obviously I had Express Pass. And when you get onto the Hogwarts Express, they're scanning your ticket and if you have Express Pass and your Express Pass, but everyone has to have their ticket scanned because you need that park to park ticket, meaning that you need a ticket allows you to go to Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. So with that, there's just a lot of steps. So when I got through for Express Pass, I still ended up waiting over 20 minutes to get onto the Hogwarts Express, which is a little unusual. The wait time wasn't even 20 minutes at that point. But there was some mechanical issue when I was in line, which is what I'm assuming happened. So that's why that took a little longer, but got on the Hogwarts Express, got over to the Hogsmeade side or Islands of Adventure side. And that is definitely the fastest way to get to Islands of Adventure from Universal Studios if you're all the way in the back. So you get over and you come out, and you're coming out kind of right by Hagrid's Magical Creatures motorbike. I was going to wait in line for it. It wasn't that long. It was only like an hour wait, which for Hagrid's is nothing. But there were just other things that I wanted to focus on for this trip. So I did not end up staying to wait for that. So what I did end up doing is I went in a lot of the shops that were there. I would say that a lot of them mimic what is on the other side. You can still get wands. You could still get a lot of the candy. You could still get butter beers on this side. So the focus really on this side is more of the rides. Again, Hagrid's, Flight of the Hippogriff, which I would say if you're a tall person, just be careful. I barely fit. My husband and I could not fit in the same seat. And so there are different options there in Forbidden Journey. Sorry, I didn't say that one. So I didn't ride any of those. No, that's not true. I did Forbidden Journey and I used the Express Pass, and it was super quick. It actually probably took me longer to put my stuff in a locker and walk back to Forbidden Journey than it did for me to even wait in line. I think I walked right on. Also, I was one person in the Express Pass line, so it was very simple for me to get on. That one, have to close my eyes a lot more on that one. I still do it because I love it and I just love anything Harry Potter, so I just want to do it. But that one's a lot rougher. You're moving almost 270 degrees in that one. So that one's a little more intense than Gringotts, I would definitely say. Then I wanted to hang out and see the choir was out. And so I really wanted to see that. I was trying to take some pictures and the sun was just against me during that day. So I ended up going over to the Jurassic Park area and Velocicoaster. No, I did not ride Velocicoaster alone. I would have to do that with my husband. He would have to help me gain the courage to get on. So I did not do that, but I did end up getting on. I did walk around. There's a bunch of different stuff around there, and there's a bunch of different places where you can watch Velocicoaster in that area. So I definitely encourage you, if you're not riding it, or even if you don't want to ride it or no one in your family wants to ride it, there are locations right in that area that you can really see some awesome pieces of the Velocicoaster, even if you're not riding it. So then I was sort of ending my time at Universal because I was trying to decide. And I actually got I was checking into Disney World that day, and I wasn't going to go until I had my room ready for me. And I sort of got like a magical upgrade unexpectedly, which I will talk about when I talk about my Disney World episode and my Disney World trip. But it was very unexpected. And so I was really excited to get to Disney World. So I ended up going through Islands of Adventure, and I went through Seuss Landing, and I kind of walked through a bunch of stuff with that because I have a small child and a small niece. And of course, they love Seuss. And the Seuss area was the area that my son really enjoyed when he went last summer. He was only 2, so he really enjoyed. I guess he had just turned 3, and he did like the Seuss area more than he liked a lot of other areas. So, and I would say that's the area that he liked the most. And I don't know if it was just because he was the most familiar. I think if we were going in the future, that he might like the Universal side. There's a really large play area on that side also that he might like, but he really enjoyed the rides in the Seuss Landing a great deal. He rode every single one of them. So I went through there, kind of looking through the shops, and there were a bunch of characters out. There seems to be more characters out in Seuss Landing than most places. So I always find characters there. And I saw, let's see, the Grinch was still out in February. Um, the Cat in the Hat and Thing One and Thing Two were there. And I think I've seen them every single time I feel like they're out often. So if that is something interesting, and they were like dancing, they had a little dance party. Sometimes they read books to the kids. It all kind of depends on what kind of day and what they're kind of doing. But it's more of an interaction with you than just like a wave and that's it. Like they were waving with me. Like I was trying to make sure all the kids had an opportunity to interact with the characters, but they were still interacting with the adults, not just me, all the adults. So it was very interesting to see. On the way out, so at this point, I ended up leaving Universal Studio or Islands of Adventure. And I would say Islands of Adventure, there's a lot more walking to get out from where the rides are. There's more shops, and the way that you have to walk out, it's it's very it's like it takes you like away from where the exit is, and then you like curve back in, and then you get back onto City Walk. And then from City Walk, I ended up walking back to my car, and that's when I figured out, wow, I did not park as close as I thought, as I thought in the morning. At this point, I had already done like 15,000 steps for the day. So I had already done a number of steps. And I did end up going to grab Voodoo Donuts, just two of them. And they're not, I'm from Connecticut, if you don't know. So the donut price seemed very reasonable to me from what we have at Dunkin'. So it was very reasonable. And there are different ones. There's gluten-free ones. There's all these different options. So, and I could mobile order. So I like mobile ordered while I was walking and then just went there and grabbed them and picked them up and was on my way. So that was really great. But I will say the walk back is long. So if you're not staying at one of those premier hotels, you're just going to be in for the walk. And I think that's the hardest part with going to Universal is understanding that there is all that walking at the beginning and at the end, even once you get out of the parks. So, and you can also walk back to your resort hotels if you're staying on one of the Universal properties, all of them. But I mean, I guess you could walk back to Aventura. It's complicated, but you can do it. And you can walk back to Cabana Bay. I have done that. That's long. I don't encourage that after being in the parks all the day. I would just take the bus at that point. And Endless Summer and Dockside bus is your only option for that. So what I would say is I love the ease of Universal Studios. I think it's one of the best options for people. If you love Harry Potter, I think that this is a must do type of activity. Even if you just go for the day, it's a great option for you. I love it. I love going. It's why I'm a annual pass holder. I think I'll always be an annual pass holder to Universal. It's just I can go and come in and do things. There is some really great food options too outside of Harry Potter. You just have to kind of know what they are. There are some good locations and not so good locations, and not all locations are 100% open all the time. So that's maybe the more tricky part of it. But I I just love the ease of Universal. And if I'm in Universal Studios and let's say I just want to like if there's a baseball game on and my husband really wants to watch it, great, let's go to City Walk. He can watch it in NBC Sports and we're all set. We could take a break. It's definitely just an easier park to go through. There are places to rest, to sit, to get drinks. It's very easy and I love it. So, all right, that will wrap up our podcast for today. Again, all my information is below if you'd like to reach out to me. And I would love to hear about what your favorite part about Universal Studios is. So I will talk to you next time on the Magical Travel Adventure podcast. Bye.